And I will mute everyone. Let's go ahead and settle into a comfortable meditation posture. And when you're ready, please go ahead and softly close your eyes. Using whichever method you find most effective, allow both your physical body and your mind to start to settle and rest. And when you're ready in your own time, please go ahead and transition into meditation on the inner body. As always, please feel completely free to bring to mind the image of a mountain to inform your meditation. The mountain is balanced, grounded, and stable. Please gently and gradually allow your consciousness to become less absorbed as you begin to arise from meditation. We dedicate all of the merit from this morning's meditation to world peace. May all beings without exception be completely free from all forms of mental and physical suffering. May all beings without exception be happy, peaceful, contented, and free. Completely fill up your belly and lungs with air, and when you're ready, you can open your eyes and bring your meditation to an end. Welcome back, everyone. This is our next to our last class in this 30-day program. Amazing. What an amazing journey it's been. As I mentioned on Monday, please feel free. I hope you will feel free to partake of the group that started last year that meets on Mondays and Fridays from 8:30 to 9 o'clock a.m. Mountain Time. We are just getting into a new body of teachings, so the timing is good. We have had a couple of classes already on the new subject, which is Lojong, a Tibetan word which means training the mind. And I will send you links to those two classes so you can catch up if you feel like joining in on the Monday, Friday class starting next week. So just two classes, 2 30-minute classes, and they include, the meditation, the 15-minute meditation to start. So you can fulfill your meditation commitment in addition to catch up on the subject, should that hold interest for you. One follow-up thought that I wanted to share with you with regard to the teaching on Monday. And you'll recall that I used, at a couple of different times, I said something to the effect of, or that had to do with comparing our experience of an event through the thinking conceptual mind as compared to our experience of that event through the consciousness of non-conceptual awareness. And I just want to kind of clarify, refine my language a little bit. Using the words experiencing through conceptual thought is a contradiction in terms, because we really can't experience an event or a situation or a person through conceptual thought. We can understand it. The only way that we can directly experience an event is through non-conceptual awareness. So for me to say experiencing through conceptual thought is, as I say, kind of an oxymoron, a contradiction in terms. We can process an event through conceptual thought. We can come to understand an event through conceptual thought, but directly experiencing it, It doesn't happen. This is especially important, a really, really important point, because if you check, the only way that we change, like really experience what Reggie Ray refers to as existential change, is through experience. It's through experience that we change, become more generous, become more loving, become more compassionate. An example that comes to mind for me, I think, for me, the most powerful example is unconditional love. I think that's the highest, maybe the highest of all human experiences. And whether we're on the receiving end of unconditional love or on the giving side of unconditional love, there's no concept, no words, no labels, no comparisons, no nothing that can take the place of our experience of loving unconditionally or being loved unconditionally. It can only happen through experience. So it is with all events in life. So just wanted to make that clarification with regard to experience and conceptual thought, which is as a contradiction in terms, as opposed to experiencing through non-conceptual awareness. So getting back to our discussion of the root delusion of aversion, and the antidote to the delusion of aversion, which is patient acceptance. And we were talking about a recognition of, an understanding of, and hopefully an experience of the laws of karma as a means for us to come to use karma, use our appreciation of karma, our experience of karma, to bring us to a place where we're able to accept whatever arises, having abandoned the notion that things should be other than what they are. If we can come to recognize that the experiences that we have, the effects that we experience, are a function of the causes that we created previously, that might enable us to accept situations that we find undesirable. Now, to go a little bit deeper into this discussion, I want to go back to something that we've talked about before, and that is consciousness. You'll recall that the definition of consciousness, or I guess I should say a definition of consciousness, is a formless continuum that functions to perceive and understand objects. A formless continuum is the operative word for purposes of this discussion. Continuum, one moment of consciousness giving rise to the next moment of consciousness, which in turn gives rise to the next moment of consciousness. To be even a little bit more precise, this moment of consciousness is the substantial cause of the next moment of consciousness. That's the effect. The next moment of consciousness is the effect. The substantial cause of the next moment of consciousness is this moment of consciousness. It's a continuum, one moment of consciousness after the other in a stream. So if we go backwards in time, the previous moment of consciousness and the previous moment of consciousness giving rise to each subsequent moment of consciousness, we can go back and back and back to the first moment of consciousness of this life. What, we may ask, is the substantial cause of the first moment of consciousness of this life? The answer would be, using this line of reasoning, the last moment of consciousness of a previous life. Okay. Continuum. The last moment of consciousness of our previous life, so some schools of Dharma believe, the last moment of consciousness is the substantial cause for the first moment of consciousness of this life. That's how the continuum is sustained. So this ventures into some new territory for some of us, perhaps. I would imagine that a lot of us have given thought at some point in our life, maybe frequently, to this notion of past and future lives. I don't have time to go through and develop different lines of reasoning, such as deja vu and other ideas, people in the past who can recall experiences from past lives. Don't have time here this morning to develop all of those, but I will share with you the one argument that compels me the most with regard to talking about my experience, that compels me the most with regard to the possibility, maybe the probability, the truth for me, it's my view, the truth of past and future lives, and it has to do with continuum. So if we look at the world around us, everything is a continuum. There's no definitive beginning or end of anything. Let's take my body, this entity called Jeff's body. It came about through parts of my parents' body, my parents' bodies, which turned into a fetus and then became an infant, and then the continuum goes on into childhood, adolescence, young adult, 60-year-old male. The continuum will continue, and at some point, Jeff's body, as we know it, as a living, sustained entity, body now we're talking about, at some point the body will cease. And then it will maybe be buried in a box, and the box will decompose because it's impermanent, and Jeff's body will become worm food, and then the worms will go and the worms will poop into the soil, and then the soil, grows plants and stuff. We can't find a definitive beginning or ending to this entity called Jeff's body. It just transforms. It just continues to change. So it is with all phenomena, everything without exception. And so what I find so compelling about this is the juice for me of this line of contemplation. We might be tempted to think that consciousness ends at the time of death. We might hear it all the time. We might believe it ourselves. There's just like an end. Consciousness ends at the time of death, and there's just nothing there. There's nothing. If that's the truth, if that's the case, then consciousness would be the only phenomenon in all of existence that has a definitive end. It's the only thing. Of all phenomena in this world, in our existence, that would be the only phenomenon that has a definitive beginning and a definitive end. And for me, those odds are just too great. They're just too great. In addition to other lines of reasoning or contemplation that I find compelling. So, consciousness, a formless continuum that functions to perceive and understand objects. What does that have to do with the delusion of aversion and its antidote, patient acceptance, and the way to cultivate greater patient acceptance through karma? It could be that the experiences that I'm having in this lifetime are an effect of a cause that I created in a previous life. If we think about the continuum of karma and past lives, if there's no beginning to consciousness, then I've lived a heck of a lot of lives in the past. You know, sometimes in a human form, sometimes in a critter form, sometimes in, you know, life forms that aren't even part of this world. So this one short life compared to all of my previous lives and kind of my engaging in actions and experiencing their effects, just from a quantitative perspective, it seems almost certain that the experiences, the effects that I'm experiencing in this life were created through actions that I engaged in one of my previous countless lives. So that speaks to kind of the question that one of Denise's questions: what did I do to deserve this? You know, I'm a good person. Why is this bad thing happening to me? I can't identify anything that happened in this life that would serve as a cause for the effect of this undesirable situation. This is a bad thing happening to a good person with no identifiable cause. Well, maybe that cause happened sometime before this life. Continuum of consciousness is one potential explanation for that scenario. So lot of stuff there, lots to contemplate. If you have questions, please feel free to pass them along via email. Not saying that we'll have time to address them on Friday's class, but some point in our continuum of meditation study, I'll find time. I'll find a way to try to answer those questions. If not in a class, then even just responding through email. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for being here. Have a lovely day. And I hope to see you on Friday. Okay. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.